This is probably going to be another extremely long video, but hey, we'll see what happens. So, as the name of the video implies, today we're looking at a knockoff of MP-36 Megatron. This is, as of this recording, this is the knockoff that is available on sites like Shozy and whatnot. This is actually a little bit different than the last knockoff MP-36 that I bought from Shozy, which was a couple of years ago. I've gone through a few of them. Because I changed my mind, not because anything happened with the figures explicitly. But yeah, this is different. They did this kind of like silvery, I don't know if it's paint or not, but there's like this silvery finish on a lot of the parts that are normally gray. And I don't mind that, but it was kind of a surprise, as I was expecting it to be more, you know, like the regular figure or the knockoffs that I've had, where it's more of like a gray rather than this silvery finish, but it's like a matte silver, which actually kind of looks nice. But comes with all the same accessories that you get with MP-36, like the key to Vector Sigma, the mind control helmet, the damaged chest plate, the let me moving that a little bit. There we go. The prime killing pistol, the damaged face, the angry face, the default stoic face, or grumpy face, the sword. Also, the sword blade can be used as blast effect and plugged into the gun barrel. The energy mace on a dangly chain, and the mace's dangly chain can be replaced with a more solid posable chain. We'll get to the other two remaining accessory bits in a second, but just to show how all of this works and attaches, there's a little pseudo mushroom peg shaped bit right up here. Get this slid up here. So right here, all you do is slide the thing out, and that is it. The where is it? This is just the base for the mace, so you can actually unplug the more posable section from there and leave that slid into place. You can unplug this from the end of that mace, or from that end of the mace rather, and then you can just take the chain and plug the chain into the right spots, and that's how you get the dangly mace. And slide this out, and the hand just slides in. You can kind of see how it goes based on how it's shaped, but yeah, that just slides in, and that's all you do for the hand to remove it. The pistol and the sword have tabs, and the tabs just tab into the palm. So you just tab it in, and then you can curl the fingers around it for both. And this just plugs in for the gun, and for the sword it also just plugs in, and then this can go in his hand just like the sword, and fingers can curl around, and there he's holding that. This is all MP-36, but just in case people watching this aren't familiar with MP-36, that's why I'm going over it. So that is those accessories. The mind control helmet, which is surprisingly detailed and pretty decently painted for the most part. That just goes over the head. It doesn't like clip in or anything like that. It just kind of frictions on, but that's how that goes on, and you just pull it off. So yeah, there's that. I am noticing that there seems to be a paint scratch on his cheek. Oh, nope, that was just debris. Never mind, no paint scratch. So yeah, for the face removal, it's, again, same as MP-36. All you do is get a thumb or whatever under the chin and pull up, just straight up, and this will just slide off, and there's this little peg here that pegs in up here. So when you go in, you just have this lined up like that and just push it down, and that is what attaches and removes the faces. And behind the face, you've got that nifty detail of his reformatting scene from the original 86 movie. And I'm just going to go back to this face because this is my favorite face. All the faces do look good, but like I like how expressive this one is. But I also appreciate how the Like this face in particular is a little bit trickier to get on than the others. I think there must be a slightly misshapen peg or something, but it does go on. But yeah, the metallic red for the eyes is great. The black on the eyebrows and mouth and whatnot looks pretty sharp, and I like how the face uses this kind of bluish gray, which stands out from the silver around it. Again, I think the silver is a little bit weird, but I don't dislike it. And then for the chest plate, switching out the chest plate is really easy. You just want to kind of get your thumbs around the sides here, not here, but like around here, and kind of hold this down because this accordion's up as part of the transformation. So with that, you just pull up and it will unplug the chest plate, unsnap it from this piece, because it just uses these little sliders that slides over it. And I think this one here, yeah, that actually got knocked out of place. That's why that was a little bit strange, but I don't use this chest piece anyway, so whatever. But that's how that slides off, and then take the other one, and that just slides down and does kind of click in, and there we go. And then for the key to vector sigma, it feels like metal. It doesn't peg in. You just close his fingers around it, and that's how he holds it. So there is all the accessories, minus the stock and silencer. This piece feels like die-cast metal, so I'm willing to assume it is. And this can become a thing. It's been a while since I've messed with this, and I've not looked at the instructions, so we'll see what happens as I screw this up undoubtedly, but this splits apart. This can, let's see, this folds out, I believe. Doesn't want to fold out. This should... Why does that not want to go? I'm missing something. Is there like a release switch? Oh, there we go. Okay. There is a release switch. So push this button in, and that frees this up. And you actually want to keep it held in to adjust the angle. But push that in, you can adjust this, and then let go, and it'll snap into place. These armatures can actually move, and they're on ratchets. So you can angle this, and then there is a, how does this go? I messed around with this once before. I think what it actually, yeah, okay, it goes in like this. There's this little cavity and like bar here. It kind of goes into this little crevice here. It looks a little bit suggestive, but that just goes in. At least it should. Okay, well, it's supposed to go in like this, and it's not, and I don't want to risk damaging things, so I'm not going to do it. But basically, what this is supposed to do is act as a display stand for Megatron, so you can have him in, like, leaping and other aerial style poses. And I got this all misaligned. There we go. Bring all this back down. So yeah, not going to mess with that because it doesn't want to plug in, but there is what you can do there. Also, can swing this back in, swing out these bits that become handlebars, and then, let's see, trying to remember how this goes, because the silencer piece also does a bunch of stuff. There's this piece that comes out, and there's this piece that disconnects and swings around. And I believe we also need the fusion cannon for this. I definitely should have looked at the instructions before I started doing this. My apologies, everybody. But, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. So push this in, swing this around, rotate it around like we did before, but that's because there's actually a, where is it? There's a track right here that this goes into. So that is how that plugs in. And this just kind of nestles in here. And then the fusion cannon, I think, is supposed to sit up here somehow. Yeah, there's little tracks on the side here that these little bits right down here at the base of the fusion cannon go into. So that slides in like that, and that gives us like a gun emplacement thing, which looks a little strange, but it's a thing you can do. There is one other thing we can do with this, and I'm trying to remember how it goes, because what basically happens is this piece can, like, it should be so that this piece goes around and gives him like the in front of his face cannon thing, but I don't know. I don't know if this... Yeah, he does do it. He is capable of doing it. I just looked at the back of the box, but I have no freaking clue how to go about doing that. Because, okay, there we go. There's a track here, so I'm guessing this slides in like this, and this is supposed to go over like this somehow. I bet what you do is rotate this around, because this does rotate, but it doesn't feel good. Yeah, this feels like it's going to snap if I rotate it any further, so I'm not going to try that. But basically, I think this is supposed to kind of go over his shoulder, and this goes over his face and looks kind of silly. But, whatever. My apologies if you want to see that, but that's probably not why you got this thing anyway. So we're just going to put all that stuff off to the side and give him his fusion cannon back. So yeah, this is, as I said, it's just MP-36. It's MP-36, but it doesn't cost $200, $200 plus, and comes with pretty much all the same stuff, and the quality is not the same. It's okay. The quality on this is okay. I've had knockoff Masterpiece figures that are not great, and then I've had some that are really good. He's kind of in the middle, but closer to the really good side than the not great side. He's, weirdly enough, a lot of the problems with this guy are that joints are too tight. I had to loosen a lot of things up. The hip skirts are still a problem. I tried loosening those up and it didn't really make a difference, but like I actually had to carve out these joints in the hip that allow the legs to pop out and shift down for the transformation, because that was so tight. I was worried I was going to rip the leg off at the hip if I tried pulling it down anymore, so I had to disassemble the waist and carve some things down in order to actually get that to work while still lock in place. So, a little concerning that, but yeah, he does look good. He is messy around the back. Also, this piece was loose out of the box. I tightened that up and it actually seems a lot better now. This is still loose, but this doesn't have the giant barrel over it, so it doesn't matter if that flops around a little bit. Yeah, that's, he is messy. There's this going on, but like I really don't mind. There's something about MP-36 that really appeals to me, and I genuinely cannot think of a good way to explain it, because I'm not big on, messy Masterpiece stuff usually, and I'm usually not into super complex stuff, though I'd argue that MP-36 is not that complex. A lot of his stuff does make sense. It's just I don't know, something about this guy hits different than a lot of the average Masterpiece, like overwrought Masterpiece stuff we've been getting from Takara since MP-44, I want to say. I'm still, I don't own MP-44, I've never handled it. My opinions may change if I ever touch one, but I don't ever want to touch one. Also, I do want to take a quick moment. I should have done this first, but I'm a bit disjointed here. I want to take a quick moment to look at the box, because this is straight up knockoff box. This is not, knockoff company. We knocked off MP-36 and we're calling it something else, but we're making it look like MP-36. This straight up says Takara Tomy MP-36 Destron Leader Megatron. The only thing that sets it apart is this little long life design down in the corner there. So yeah, this is straight up a knockoff. This is pretending to be MP-36. So, word of caution for anyone who might be trying to get an official MP-36. Do your due diligence to make sure that it is official, because there are lying boxes out there. And now that box dirtied up my backdrop. Oh well. We'll work around it. But yeah. I like this guy a lot, even if he is a bit jank. And the silver finish has been scratching off in a few places. I've transformed this guy a number of times since I got him, because I do actually enjoy the transformation, especially now that I've adjusted some of the tolerances. But it's still very much a knockoff, which I don't particularly mind, but it is something worth mentioning. So, since we're talking about the figure, or we should be talking about the figure, he looks really good. I like the... let me get this kind of out of the way and repositioned. I like how I like the look of this guy. I like the silhouette. I like the shape. I know that some folks, hi Panda T, some folks do not like the proportions, particularly when it comes to the feet. That doesn't bother me, but I get it. But yeah, this guy is, like, silhouette-wise, he's really impressive and has a pretty nice-looking silhouette. And it will always and forever impress me how they managed to take this and have it transform and compact into a gun mode. Like, there's a lot going on with this guy. And also, as you may have noticed, this arm doesn't seem to like to stay fully tapped in, but it's, it does stay. It's just not that hard to knock it out of place. So I may need to adjust that later. But yeah, he, for what he is, looks good. And I actually do really like the silver finish. It's different, and I don't mind it being different. Now, we already looked at the head, but see, there's some nice detailing in a few places, namely in like the waist and midsection. Everything else is supposed to be, it's going for the cartoon look, so it's not super involved with molding. Now, for articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you can look up pretty dang far, can look down pretty decently, and then you can use the this transformation joint back here to you just kind of bring that up to have him look down even further if you want to do that. It starts to look weird, but you can do it. You also get side-to-side tilt, and if you shift things up a little bit using that transformation joint, you get more range. And you can rotate all the way around if you so desire. The arms are a little bit odd in that the inward and outward motion is happening up here, and it's ratcheted, so it does go up like pretty much all the way up there, and then you get another joint here, but it's things kind of bang into things, so you're not going to get too much use out of it from some angles. And this also means that you're basically using trigger-happy shoulders. But one, you can kind of work around it, and two, if you see how this thing works, this spot here, this is what's banging into stuff, but as you bring the arm down, this is able to move more freely. So if you rotate this forward, you can actually get a more natural outward motion without using trigger-happy shoulders. Also, there is a butterfly joint, so you can use the butterfly joint in conjunction with that other joint to get things at a slightly more natural looking angle. But the butterfly joint can reach across pretty well. And also, this is ratcheted. You have a bicep swivel, which on this arm, I believe, is tighter than the other one. No, it's this arm. This arm has the tighter bicep swivel, but got bicep swivels. You have a single jointed elbow, but that joint is intense, so you can bend way beyond 90. You have wrist swivel, and then also because of the transformation, the wrist can kind of do this. And then the fingers are a little bit odd, but they still work. You get a thumb that moves at this kind of angle. You've got an index finger that bends there, and then the 3 fingers past that have this similar joint where they bend there and there and there. So he is pretty expressive with the hands too. Not as expressive with the faces, but still pretty expressive. And there you can kind of see some of the scuffing I was talking about. It doesn't bother me because, 1, this is a knockoff, but 2, I'm kind of okay with the idea of this guy kind of wearing down over time, like the finish on this guy wearing down over time, and just adding a bit more of like a battle-hardened, I guess, rough and tumble personality look to him. But it is something to be aware of. You get a waist swivel that it doesn't go all the way around because parts do kind of clash into the these hinges right up here by the hip skirts. But it, like, that's a pretty significant waist swivel, so I think that's fine. And I mean, if you really wanted to, you could try to push it past that, but I prefer not to do that. Something of note, I did have to loosen the waist swivel. That was something that was really a little bit too... The waist swivel was too snug on mine. It was a little bit scary, so I had to loosen that up. But now it moves just fine. And you also probably saw you get an ab crunch that goes that far, which is pretty good. The hips, this is the somewhat concerning part. These hip skirt flaps are really tight, so I try to grab closer to the hinge so that I'm not using like this piece for leverage, because I think that risks snapping. But both of the hip skirts do move, and you can go without moving anything else out, because these butt skirts are kind of tapped in. You can move them if you want, but without moving them, the legs go back that far and go forward past 90. The ratchets aren't super strong, but strong enough. You get a thigh rotation that does not go all the way around because it's just basically the sculpt knocks into the other sculpt there, but that still goes pretty far. You get that. The hip skirt can move up and out of the way and also rotate to get further out of the way if you need it. And the hip goes up that far. Though if you wanted to, you could probably get things a little bit like further. I don't know. But yeah, that's as far out as the hip goes when it's just straight. Then the knees are intense. You actually get a really nice knee bend. Whoop, there it is. I'll talk about that in a second. So the knee bends well past 90, pretty expressive. Something though about the knees is this knee is fine. This knee you have some problems because if you try to bend it, what ends up happening is this tab gets in the way of this panel here, and it kind of blocks the movement. So if you kind of flex this out a little bit, you can get that in there, and it bends as much as the other knee. But you just have to be mindful of kind of flexing this out of the way so that that tab has clearance when you straighten the leg out. So something to keep in mind. And then for the ankles, you get ankle tilt that is pretty decent, even goes out a little bit, and it also ratchets forward and back bits. There is a bit of play in the ratchets, but I just chalk that up to knockoff. So there is that. Now the fusion cannon, it does not clip on as securely as it has with, I'm assuming it doesn't clip on as securely as the official one, but it also does not clip on as securely as I've experienced with other knockoffs that I've owned. So that is a thing. It does hold. It's just, I bumped it off, but like when it clips on, it's on there. It's not going to fall off. Like, not a good way to show this. It's not going to fall off. Unless you really shake it. But But yeah, it's on there pretty good. You just have to be mindful of it, which is a little disappointing. I'm trying to figure out a good way to fix it, because it seems like the real problem is these pieces here, this piece and this piece, they just kind of are out a little bit. And also it seems like these extra tabs here may have been shaved down in the factory. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it results in it not holding particularly well, or as well as the others. So like if I push these in slightly, if I just apply a little pressure, it holds on just fine. But the trick is figuring out how to get that to stay snugly pushed in, because I've already tried tightening these screws and it doesn't really make a difference. Now, with regards to this fusion cannon, I also want to say this particular knockoff does not have the lights and sounds. It doesn't have them, so I can't show those off. But normally you'd have the switch up here they use to switch between modes, and then this button that you press to do the lights and sounds, but doesn't do it. So yeah, that is everything with the robot mode. That is, we're at 30 minutes of recording already, geez. So that's it for the robot mode. I don't know for sure if this is a one-to-one MP-36. I know at least one of the knockoffs that I've previously owned actually somehow managed to make it so that the thighs were a little bit longer, which made the figure ever so slightly taller than regular MP-36. I don't know if this is that or if this is like a direct MP-36. But I'm going to say this is a direct MP-36. I don't know. But anyway, there he is, and now we'll bring in our size comparisons. There is Voyager Dinobot for a tall deluxe, Overprime or Voyager Dinobot for a tall Voyager, Overprime for a tall deluxe, Velocitron Burnout for a regular deluxe, and Samus. So yeah, he's MP-36. He's a tall guy. And I'll get these out of the way, because I have a few other masterpiece comparisons, or masterpiece-ish comparisons to make here. So we'll bring in this handsome fellow. Here he is with Robot Paradise Acoustic Wave, their version, basically Fans Toys Soundwave. And he's about half a head taller than Acoustic Wave. So there you have that. And bring in my only current MP10-ish figure. It is Magic Square's Light of Freedom 2.0 Nemesis Prime version, but this is Magic Square's Masterpiece Prime, and he is a bit taller. The knockoff Megatron is a bit taller, is what I mean. And for something a little bit, like, technically cheaper, here he is with Power of the Primes Nemesis Prime, based on Power of the Prime's Leader Optimus Prime. So, and this guy was about MP10 height as well. So yeah, that's how that all works out. And I know MP44 is the new Prime. I'm still stubbornly sticking to MP10 as the default Masterpiece Prime size. And lastly, here he is. Yep, here he is with the Duck Tank. Managed to drop Burnout's guns, so camera got thrown off. But anyway, before we transform this guy into his alt mode, because we are doing things in a different order, if you like this video, I do have a Patreon or a Ko-fi, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Also, Patreon is... I still need to address that directly. I'll get to it. I will. But yeah, otherwise, you can always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, or subscribe. And also, before I forget, I want to show that you cannot use Siege Blast effects with this guy. It's not set up for it. It uses a completely different system. So unfortunately, no blast effects for MP-36. Now, to transform this guy, this is going to be fun, and I'm only being partially sarcastic when I say that. Just because I feel like doing this on camera is going to be a little bit tricky. But to start, I'm going to slide the fusion cannon off his arm and then extend the barrel, and that just, or rather scope, and that goes off to the side. And we are going to start with the upper body. And this can get a little tricky. So I'm going to straighten out the head. I'm going to push, zoom in a little bit here, I'm going to push this up slightly. Like you can see how it moves the midsection too. So push this whole thing up slightly and then rotate this 90 degrees. And you may need to keep pushing it up because it'll knock into here. So just push it up a little bit, rotate it. And once it's rotated 90 degrees, now you can push it up all the way and it will sit right in front of his face. So I want to do that. Now, before I get into all this other stuff, I want to take care of the arms. And the arms are a little bit tricky just because of the angles involved here. So first off, going to take the hand. And what you want to do is you want to fold the thumb in first and then fold the index finger around it. And then these fingers can curl in a bit more normally. Because what you need to have happen is when the hand's all curled up, you open this panel and swing this in, and there's just enough space for it to fit when you have things arranged like that. Because you want that thumb in, otherwise it'll be pushing up against other stuff. So rotate that in. This will compress, but not just yet. I want to take this panel and rotate it 180 degrees. And then also take this panel and flip it up. And now comes the trickier part. You kind of want to flex this curved piece out just a bit because this helps to lock this other panel in. But you want to pull this out and then rotate this back and get that around there. And with this rotated out, now this panel here, this black piece, can rotate around, and this is a very stiff joint for some reason. And then comes the other tricky part, because yeah, there's I find it's easiest to use the butterfly joints here, but you want to bring this joint, you want to bring the shoulder down and bring this forward so that you can kind of bring this out of the way. With this out of the way, you can close this up, and then this accordions up and kind of clicks in. And now you want to rotate the arm forward, and you also want to straighten it out so it kind of lines up with what's going on here. Then we can, this should fold forward more. No, okay. So I guess instead we're just going to bend the arm forward so that we have enough space to take this little shoulder trigger thing or hammer thing, and this rotates around and rotates in, and we'll actually fill in this spot here. Then we can straighten this out, and then this panel flips up and goes up in this section here. And this is also a little bit tricky because this joint is a bit stiff, but that comes up and feels a little scary to do because knockoff, but there you go. Now I'm just gonna bring this up temporarily so that we can take this piece and get this out of the way. This comes around like this, and then you want to rotate it and straighten this out, and this will swing around and come in like that. And now this whole arm section will disconnect from here and come down, and this is where this piece folds up. But I actually think what I want to do first is disconnect this. So with this unplugged, this entire assembly here swings forward. And because the reason you want to do that is this kind of gets in the way of this. So with this assembly swung forward, I'm going to disconnect this and swing that piece down, which will allow this to come down further. And that should give us enough room to take this piece and flip it up. It should just go right around, yeah, it goes right around that joint, and that flips up and into there. And just put that back. So there we have that happening. I will deal with the hip skirts later. And other arm, same deal, just unplug and swing this whole thing forward, including the front skirts. That whole section swings forward. Like that. This piece will kind of untab kind of sits into this little divot here. So this swings down and that swings out. Sorry. There we have all of that. And now we'll do the arm a little bit differently this time. Just get this piece out of the way first. So get the arm out of the way and swing this around. Swing this out and around, and then bring it in. And these two pieces will tab together. And it is very, very snug on this figure because everything is done in this like silvery thing. Okay, now I'll bring this back down. And actually, no, before we bring that back down, we will do this hand. So you want to bring the thumb in, curl the finger around, curl these fingers in, line it up so that you can open this door and swing it in like this, and just leave this panel open. Take this panel and pull it up a little bit so we can pull this panel out. Then this can come back down, and this will slide in and should click into place for the arm. And it doesn't seem to like to click in on this arm for some reason. I'm not sure what the issue is, but this one doesn't go in as far as the other one. I've yet to figure out what's going on there. But this just does not want to click in all the way. And this panel swings around, and we can deal with this thing. So this, again, this little piece flips around. This hammer piece flips around. This, okay, this piece, this hammer piece, is on a pin, and on this one, I guess I bent things the wrong way, and it kind of popped a little bit. Like it's still in there, but it's kind of slid this way a little more than it should be. So that's a little bit annoying, but this comes in and sits like that, and you can see how there's a gap there now. So I kind of have to try and pull it down a little bit, and I haven't figured out a good way to fix that yet, but it happened. Anyway, I'm going to try to squish this down with a spudger a little bit, and then once again, this will line up like this, and this panel will come up, and it is even trickier on this one because of that one piece that's not like in there quite right. But this can now come out, and this comes down, and then this piece flips up. It's very stiff and goes in there. There we go. Now we're going to take all of this, and the barrel will kind of come down on this armature, and we want to have it kind of lined up here. And the actual barrel rotates, which is very stiff. On the other KO I had, that rotation was very loose, so I'm glad that it's stiff, but I wish other things were a little bit tighter on this thing. Like this seems to have worked itself loose already. This panel here comes up and rotates 180 degrees and just sits like that. And this panel on this side, same deal. This comes up, rotates 180 and sits like that. And now all of this will come up and come in. Actually, got to be careful of these. I'm going to rotate these panels out like this so that they don't get caught on anything. But this comes up, then this comes up and kind of nestles around Megatron's head. And now this panel, this whole assembly, let me adjust this. This whole assembly comes in, and this will kind of all settle into place and kind of tab in right here. And then same thing on this side. This comes in, and what you want to do is there's a tab here and a tab here that go in here and kind of sit in this peg hole here. But you also have this piece, like this kind of lip here, that goes underneath this curved lip for the barrel sections. So it's a lot of stuff that kind of has to, it's not super hard to get lined up, but it's mostly up here because that little peg is kind of annoying to get situated, and there it goes right away. So I guess I'm a liar. There we go. There's the front of the gun. This piece can fold up, though it's not super important to deal with right now. And lastly, for the upper body, for now, we're going to take this. Actually, we're going to leave this up temporarily because what we have to do now is rotate the waist 180 degrees. I always forget to do that, so I'm going to do it now. So this rotates 180 degrees, and because that's a necessary step, that made the transformation a little scary for me because that waist was really tight. But yeah, rotate the waist 180 degrees, and now we can take these arm sections and fold these in, and those will kind of click-ish into place, and there we've got the sides of the gun. Now we can do the legs, and I need to recenter this camera a bit. Okay. This piece here folds down. The legs and feet are a bit on the complicated side, but they're not too bad. For the feet, what you want to do is kind of straighten them out, and then take this piece and fold it out, fold this piece out, and then this is interesting. This whole thing kind of straightens out, and then this front of the foot folds up. And once that's folded up enough, you can then swing this entire thing out, and it comes down. And I find it's best to push this back in from here because it's just easier. And this can rotate down, and this will kind of settle in here, but we're just going to leave it like this for now. So there's that. Now I'm going to take this panel back here and kind of tilt it back so that you can disconnect it from all of this stuff. It's a little tricky to get this one in particular because of this tab, but tilt it back. And this is the best time to do this particular step. There's this little panel here. You want to fold that out. And it's just, you have the most clearance when the leg is like this. So that's why I'm folding that out now. Now, I'm going to take this piece, this little pants cuff piece, and rotate it up until it's about 90 degrees. Split the knee section, and then this piece here on this side comes up and out. And with that split, now this piece, the front of the shin, can fold down and in like that. And then finally, these panels close in. But what happens is this panel shifts down and this panel shifts up. So it goes like this. And that realigns everything. On this figure, getting these separated is a little bit annoying, particularly on this leg, but it's doable. And now with that all squished in, this piece can shift up, and it kind of tabs into place to create, like it lines up along here. Now this just kind of sits like that. And then the foot, you can continue rotating it down, and that, the foot rotates down, and this is kind of all sits in like this, and this will come in, and it kind of fits around this piece and will tab into the side of this piece, which is a little bit insecure. It's not the strongest connection, but it doesn't need to be. It'll be fine once we actually get everything plugged in. Also, another thing I'm going to do is take this and just push that down a little bit, because this piece swings in and tabs into the knee section, so you just want to do that first, because once all this is closed up, this is not going to this is not going to want to come out if you get that all transformed. So we're going to do that on this side too real quick. And now, same deal for this leg. I'm just going to do things slightly differently. So I'm going to fold this, I'm going to pull this back and out, rotate this tiny panel up. There we go. And to rotate this piece 90 degrees. These things were extremely stiff when I first got this figure. They've loosened up over several transformations, which is good. Pop this apart, hinge this out, fold this in, take the foot and rotate all of this out, pull this forward, swing this out, and then push this back in, bring this down, and then with this as out of the way as make it, compress these in with this going up, this going down. Or no, this going down, this going up. So like that, this comes in and snaps in, and then this swings up and in and around, and that will settle in there. And finally, for this section, I want to disconnect the legs at the hip here. And for me, the easiest way of doing it is to just use this leg as leverage, like pop it down like this. Because, as I said, the joint is, like, I had to shave a lot of stuff down, but very tight. So pop this out. I want to make sure that other hip doesn't go back in. There we go. And is basically what I did was, there are these little circle shaped, you can just barely see it in there. Right there, this little circular shaped thing, that sits in this kind of circular shaped divots on that joint. And I just opened up his butt and shaved those down. But anyway, to finish transforming this thing, I'm going to press hammer together, press the hips together, press the shins together, just tab all of this together as best as possible. Tab that together, and there we go. Now here I find what's easiest is to do this step before you bring in the handle. So I want to swing this up, and this whole armature will just kind of sit along here. And now we can bring the hip skirts down and unfold these pieces. And this is why I waited to do this until now. It just makes these a little bit smaller and easier to deal with. So keep that up like that. Once again, this swings up. Keep that out of the way. This swings up and just kind of settles into here. And this piece, flip out the extra panel. And now with all of this done, we can take the legs and they will accordion in on this joint here. Like, it kind of straightens out like this for robot mode, but going into gun mode, it actually bends in like this. And then you also bend the knees like for the robot mode. So bend all this in, and the reason you want to do this is because there are these little pieces here that are part of this hip skirt armature. These bits here actually sit inside of the knee sections here. So that's why you want to get these in place first. And then the front skirt sections will tuck between this spot here. This all comes up and together, and line it up and push it in. And there we go. These panels now swing in and tab in up here and down here. And same deal on this side, swing in, tab in, tab in. This piece will tab in, hook in, and tab in here. And for the last bit of it, I'm going to bring the hammer down for a sec. And these pieces swing up and in, so they go like this and also like this. So you want to kind of bring it up and in at the same time. And it will swing over all of that. And then there's a little piece here that tabs in there. And that is one side done. Then the last piece swings up, swings in, and kind of scrapes past stuff, but it is what it is. And comes together. This tabs in here. This all compresses and tabs together. This comes around. There we go. And very lastly, you take the hammer in the back, and you kind of need to, because again, KO, this, you can see it doesn't sit super great, but I'm going to pinch this together and bring this up, and this will kind of tab in. There's these two little tab bits here that kind of sit right in here and will help pinch this together. So you kind of just squeeze this shut and bring this up, and just kind of squeeze and push, and it should kind of feel it kind of click-ish into place to hold everything together. And that's it. That is the masterpiece knockoff masterpiece Megatron's transformation into gun mode, and by extension MP-36's transformation into gun mode. I don't believe the transformation is different for the official figure at all. I've never owned the official figure, but I've owned like a couple of different KOs in the past, and they've all had the same transformation, so I'm assuming it's the same. But yeah, there is MP-36's gun mode. And then lastly, you can just take the fusion cannon and once again slide it on top, and once again it does not hold the best, but it holds. I wish that this held better, because it seems like the means are there. Like, it does hold like this to a point anyway, but yeah, this just needed to be like, if you pinch it in, that's not coming out, but it's whatever. Yeah, there's MP-36's gun mode, by extension the knockoff gun mode, and it looks like G1 Megatron's alt mode, Starscream's Target Master, as it were. It is panely. It is a little bit, because it's a knockoff, it's a little bit scraggly in places. Like, you might be able to see how this section here doesn't really want to come in all the way. And if I do push it in, then other stuff kind of comes out a little bit. These bits up here still don't entirely want to peg together. When I first got this, it actually had a noticeable curve to it, which doesn't seem as bad now, but like, yeah, this is very much a knockoff. It's not comedically bad like other knockoffs I've had, as I've said, but it's a knockoff. You can tell it's a knockoff, and you can also see how this thing has some paint scuffs in a number of places because of all the transformations I've put this through already. Like, that paint is not super durable, which stinks. Like, so much paint scuffing. Even on the metal parts of the feet a little bit, but it's okay. It's, it was like $85, I think, compared to 200 plus, so it's fine. I do wish that I held on to the knockoff of this that I used to have, because that was a really good one. It was just this piece that was loose. I regret getting rid of that one, but what can you do? And that's all I can really say about it. It's Megatron's gun mode. It's got the black grip, it's got the silver everything else, it's got the fusion cannon on top. It's Megatron's gun mode. There's a trigger that you can pull, and there's a spring in it, so it will snap back into place. And holding it feels a little awkward. The grip is a little bit beefier. Also, like, my hands are probably a little bit bigger than the average person. I mean, they're not massive, but like, I've got semi-decently sized hands, and so I feel like anyone with smaller hands, this would be uncomfortable to hold. For me, it feels like holding a big gun, but it doesn't feel like holding an impossibly big gun, if that makes sense. And yeah, you can even see how this is like wiggling around up there. That just needs to hold on better. But for what it is, I think it looks and feels good. And I actually, as I said, do enjoy that transformation, as weird as it sounds. And now in this mode, almost all the accessories are completely useless, but you can use the stock. You just want to push this button in, because there are these little tabs in there that you can kind of see they move back. So you push the button in so those tabs move, and then you slide this in, because there's a little track there, and then let go of the button, and that locks everything in place. And now you have the stock attached to the gun. And for the barrel, you can take the silencer, and this just slides in. There's like a little slit at the top there for that bit to go through. That slides in, and there's a little like cylinder in there that actually plugs into the gun. You slide that in, and it should plug in, and it doesn't want to. Does it just not fit? Let's see. Do it this way. Yeah, I'm trying to plug it in. That does not want to plug in. All right. Well, it's supposed to go all the way in. It does not. So I cannot show you what this will look like with the silencer completely plugged in. But just imagine it sitting like this. But yeah, that's not going on. And I'm not forcing it because I don't want to rip this off. And I don't care enough. So there you go. There is the gun with all that stuff attached. I do not care, so I'm going to take all this stuff off. And also remember to push that button in before you try to slide this off. But yeah, I appreciate the tactile nature of attaching the stock, and I do think it's kind of neat. It is a shame that this doesn't work. I might need to figure out why, because I think it would be kind of cool in some way to get this in there, but like, yeah, that, oh, uh-oh. Well, hopefully that's not stuck now. Oh yeah, that's, yeah, okay. I'm gonna regret doing this, but we'll try it anyway. I'm gonna try to push this in and push this in. If this rips off the barrel, I hope you all appreciate what I'm doing for you. So come on, slide in. Why aren't you sliding in? There we go. So there, in its entirety, is Megatron all gun moded up. And that's enough of that. So we're just going to slide this off again. And hopefully slide this off again. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Once I got it plugged in, it seems like that's loosened things up a bit. So I guess if you get this yourself, maybe fold this out of the way and plug it in like this a few times. And then that way you can grab this to steady it, so you don't have to worry about like ripping it off of the attachment point there. So just grab and pull, push it on, grab and pull, and that will probably compress that plug a little bit so that it's not quite as intense. But yeah, that's all I can say. It's Megatron's gun mode. You also have this piece that moves up and down, and like if you want to, you can pull the hammer back, which is kind of neat. But in this one, because it's a knockoff and things don't like to hold together, you're going to have to like squeeze things to get it back into place. But there you go. For what he is, it's neat. I don't care about him being a gun. I made a video to that effect recently, semi-recently. So yeah, I don't care about whether or not Megatron is a gun, but I do think that MP-36's engineering is incredibly cool in how they managed to take that complex of a robot and turn it into this. That's wild to me. Anyway, size-wise, here he is with Dinobot and Oviprime and Burnout and Samus. And yeah, it's I guess not to scale. But then how could it be? There's no conceivable way that this would be to scale. And it's not to scale with any of the other figures that I used, any of the Masterpiece style figures, because I could bring in Acoustic Wave here. Like that gun it's a gun standing next to a Masterpiece size Soundwave. That's what even is that for a comparison? So yeah, it's a Masterpiece sized robot that turns into a roleplay sized weapon. But for the most important size comparison, which of course we can't skip. We got to do this one. Here is what is basically MP-36 with the duck tank. I don't know what to tell you all. I genuinely enjoy that transformation. I just did it again off camera, as you can tell, and things again kind of scuffed. But only needed to use a spudger for one thing. Oh, yeah, that's definitely loose again. Only needed to use a spudger for one thing, and that is separating the side pieces here that like end up covering up this section, making like the top of the gun. Everything else I was able to get no problem. It's actually one of the smoothest times I've had doing the transformation. I forgot to push these all the way in. There we go. It's one of the smoothest times I've had doing the transformation, and I do actually, I really like MP-36's transformation. It being a knockoff definitely makes it a little bit scarier. It also means that, there's less room for error. There's tons of paint scuffing. Some things are too tight, some things are too loose. But I genuinely like this. I am. I'm probably not going to get any other MP-36 KOs anytime soon, unless they release something along the lines of, what was it, like Infinite Transformation or whatever it was. Again, because I wouldn't mind getting a KO of MP-36 that's a little bit better than this, but yeah, this is good stuff, and I'm a little bit weirded out by the fact that I don't dislike how complex this is. It's just, I don't know, it hits this sweet spot where that complexity is satisfying rather than annoying. A lot of it makes sense. There's just a few things where you need to know the particulars and like how certain things are supposed to move, but once you remember those, it's completely fine to transform. And he's really posable, he's just fun to mess with, he looks great, even this KO. My big complaint with this thing is how easily this comes out. But, KO. I'll look into that and figure out what's going on. But yeah, that is enough of that. This has been over an hour of me talking, so I'm going to stop. Also, I have dinner just off camera there. So that is all I have to say about this knockoff of MP-36. What do you all think of this knockoff, other knockoffs that have been done, official MP-36 figures? Doesn't matter. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching. And next time we're going to look at something that's bigger than this, but actually a lot simpler.